Hello, my fellow board gamers. Today I am bringing you a run through of Global Mogul. Now, if you're after a shorter insight, you can check out my overview I brought you guys last week. That's brought to us by Mayfair at the bottom, and the designer isn't actually on the cover, but he's at the top of the rules here, designed by Bill Creenshaw. Now, this game plays 1 to 4 players, so that's solo option as well, and it says it takes up to about 2 hours, which is about right, sometimes a little bit longer. Now, in this game we will be running an empire, and as usual there's just myself here playing as the two players. We've got the yellow empire and the red one, and we'll be expanding using our various different actions we can do to buy extra companies. We've got 4 out to begin with here. You will be trying to attain contracts. You've got government contracts, private contracts. You'll potentially be going to the markets to get resources, or if you send your agents and invest in some of the either emerging markets, and once they become valid in the open markets, they can acquire you resources depending where you go. So if you go to France with one of your agents, you pay the costs, you might suddenly start producing lumber or wood, shall we say, or the white collar workers or technology. So you can get more produce having invested and sent your agents over to these different markets. So there's quite a lot of rules to this one, but I'm just going to go straight in and hopefully explain all the actions on the player board. Now, to set up, we've got the first player is going to be yellows. The reds will have an extra oil for being second, and they both start with some blue collar workers and some lumber. They've got all these agents here to begin with and $20, and you can acquire these 7 agents on the side if you go to certain actions. Now, this is the base game. There is a standard game as well, which brings in elements of auctioning the companies and bidding on the contracts and stuff like that, but we're sticking to the base game today, and it will play out over 6 turns, they call it. And this is quite handy for giving you the setup and the end turn summary as well. So yellows are up. Now, the first thing we're going to demonstrate is going to, well, we're not going to go to the open market. Well, we could go to the open market. Let's do that. So we've got 5 actions we can take in the form of these discs, and you can only use these actions once in that particular turn. So we're going to place it on this little symbol here, which shows the open markets, which are these 4 markets at the bottom we start with. Now, they're categorized by regions. You've got sort of blue for the European region, if you can see on the card there, and then you've got the yellows, which is the Africa and Middle East, and you kind of group them together for thematic sense so you can see where they are, because you're going to be hopefully getting control of these for victory points at the end. Now, yellows are thinking, okay, we are going to invest. Now, this isn't probably what I would do to begin with, because you get to send out between 0 and 2 agents to the primary market. So let's just say we chose France. You could send an agent to any one of these spots depending on what you're looking to produce. So let's say we went for the lumber spot, and you could send a second one there. So let's just say we went for the white collar worker. You could then get a chance to send 1 agent to a secondary market. Now, that can either be on the same place you just went, so a maximum of 3 agents, or you get to take this one on another location, anywhere your choice. So it doesn't have to be within Europe. You could send it off to Iraq here for oil, and so there you are, you've done your secondary market. So the only sort of rule is you can't send 3 agents out to completely different markets. So you got your primary market and then your secondary market, which could even be in the same place. So let's just assume we did that. You pay the cost, so 30, 30 and 10, which is 70. You pay the money out of your empire here to the bank, and you can keep those agents there. Now, once you have at least 2 agents, you can claim control. So you take one of your control markers and you put it at the top here, which shows you're going to get 4 victory points at the end of the game, unless someone else comes along and vies for control. So if red comes along and they've got 2 agents here as well, they'd sort of vie for control of who gets first and second. Now, the number one way of getting control is just by having the most agents there, but in a tie like this, it would go to who has the most agents in the region. So let's just say United Kingdom was out here and the Reds had an agent there. You can see there's 3 agents in that region, because that's Europe, compared to 2's yellow. So yellow would actually go down to 2 victory points. Red would take that top spot. Now let's just assume that United Kingdom wasn't there. It would then go to a tie between whoever's the furthest right on that particular market, which is red in this case. So red would sneak in and take the four VPs at the end of the game unless something else changed that and then these reversed. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yellows can't actually afford to go to these spots. So they've only got 20 bucks. They're looking at the open markets and they're thinking, right, I can only really go one in Iraq for 10. And for their secondary market, they're going to go to Iran for 1. So that's 10 and 10 spent, which is their 20 for the oil. And what you kind of do to keep track of where you are is you take the relevant tokens. So oil is this resource here, which is kind of black. So you got these produce tokens, and it shows on one side you produce 1, and we're producing 2 in this case. So you put that relevant produce marker on the 6 available resources, so we can see easily that we produce 2 oil without having to look at the markets all the time. And that was literally open markets. Now let's say these guys want to go and do so you do your 1 turn and then it goes to the next player clockwise. So they're going to demonstrate the emerging markets, which are these ones at the top. Now the only difference here is you won't be able to produce this round using these, and I'll demonstrate production on the next round for the yellows. So they've only got 20 bucks as well, and I really wouldn't recommend going here this quickly, but they can probably see Central America here has got the 2 for 10, 10 per spot. So they're going to go there. So they take 2 agents, and this is their primary market. They can't afford to put a third agent out on a secondary market as well, so they pay their 20. And again, they've got a blue collar worker, so they're going to take a blue produce tile with the 1 on to show that they currently produce 1 blue collar worker, and the green one represents the lumber, so they'll put 1 there as well. And just to show you a little bit more on these actual markets, so this is called a major market because it's got this extra spot at the bottom. So usually, most of them, let's say Iran here, you can see there's only 1 spot. So you're vying for control, and once one person has 2 agents there, they're going to get that top spot, and there's not really likely anyone's. Well, it's going to be impossible for them to take control because there's only a third spot there. Whereas this one, a major market, let's just say red has 2 here. They get the 4 VP spot, and then yellow comes along with 2, but they're furthest right, so they get the top spot, and red gets demoted to here. And let's just say in a 3-player game, blue puts 1 here or wherever it was. They have a presence there, so they can put one of their tokens on here and get 1 VP. And 4-player game equally, if the green sneaked one on, they could get stack them up there to get the VP. So that's only in the major markets, and you can see other markets like Mexico here has just got the 1st and 2nd for control. They don't have any markers for presence. Now at the bottom it says access investment, 20 bucks. So in the standard game, remember we're playing the base game here, you can add on extra agents for that cost, and you kind of leave them at the bottom, and they can influence how many agents are there to break ties and have control over these victory points as well. So another interesting aspect to that. And that was reds. Now yellows are going to show you that production option. So working our way along, we have got the factory, and this allows us to now produce, and without having to look at what we've got out in the markets, we've got this production here. So 2 oil, so we literally take 2 oil, add them on to our other resources, and that's our go done. And reds are going to demonstrate a contract. So 2 different types of contracts. You've got the government ones at the top, and they kind of say government. So you can see they're building a trolley, special forces, body armor, and the privates here, they're building copper mines, cell phones, apartment complexes, and truck fleets. So we're going to go for a government contract. Now we take one of these, we don't have to fulfill the resources required currently, and the game starts with A's, and then as you get to the 4th turn you bring out the B's, which are kind of all at the top here. So we're going to have an agent free, so we've got these agents, and you put an agent on the top here, and we're trying to produce body armor, so we're going to need a white collar worker, gold, and 2 technology resources. Once we have those resources, we can do it any time. It's not a turn to complete these, and the little icon at the left kind of demonstrates what this is roughly about. So it's technology, and once you've completed this contract, you're going to get $30 straight away, and you save it for the end of the game for some victory points as well. Now interestingly, with the government contracts, let's just say we've completed this one, we've paid the resource, you turn it over, you get your agent back. More importantly, next time you do take a contract, which you can only take 1 on this particular turn, let's say it's turn 2, you will get in advance a payment, and this only applies to the government contracts, of 10 bucks per previously completed contracts. So if we took this one, we're going to get £10 in advance, and we hopefully try and complete this contract. And when we do, and we've got 2, and we maybe take a third one on a later round, we're going to get $20 as an advance payment. So it's quite nice to get a few of them under your belt, because then you can get an accumulator of money. Whereas the private contracts tend to pay out a little bit more and require a little bit less resource in some cases. So these ones, you can see, again, you put your agent at the top, 2 oil, 1 lumber, and a blue collar worker needed. It says private contract, 2 VPs, and it's going to pay out 30. So we are going to take, which one are we thinking? We've got some oil, we've got a blue collar worker, and we need a white collar worker and 2 more oils. So we've taken that one. We don't get the $10 payout because we haven't got any previous completed ones. Now, these agents are limited, and you can see we've already had to put one out on our contract. We've put several out here on the market. So if these do sort of get low, you're going to need to go to the market research and the grant. Well, the grant and the market research. So the grant gets you $10, and it kind of says nicely on your player board, and you get to move 1 agent from here over to here. Well, if you do market research, you get to take 2 over there, which is very much needed in the later rounds. Or you could take one of your agents off your markets and bring them back into play, which is kind of a waste because you spent the money for them to go and produce resource in that market. Over to yellows then, and we're going to demonstrate. We've already done the emerging, we've done the contract. I'll do a private contract while we're here. It's the same thing. They're just going to go for, well, we've got 2 oil, and we can actually complete this one, which is great. So we're going to go for the truck fleet, and we need an agent to put it on. Even if you could complete it straight away, you still need that agent, and then it goes back. So we've got the blue collar worker, we've got the 2 oil and the wood. So we would pop these all back. We've completed this contract, which is great because we get a payout of $30 into our empire to do more. And we turn it upside down. At the end of the game, that'll be worth 2 victory points. And as well, I'm probably skipping ahead, but if you have the most of the, if you're the empire, the player who's built the most private contracts, you get an extra bonus for doing that at the end. It's 3 victory points. And equally, if you've you completed the most government contracts, there's a bonus for having completed the most as well. But if you don't, say if you've completed 2 of these government contracts, but at the end of the game you still haven't completed this particular one, you don't actually have a chance to get that bonus, and equally you'll score minus these victory points for the one that you haven't completed. You still get the victory points for the ones you have completed, but you don't have a chance to get that VP we spoke about. So where were we? Yellows have been, and reds have no money. Let's go and show you venture capitalists. So on the board here, there's a section to the left, and this is where you go and put an agent. You have to start on the top left. So they're going to get $20 from venture capital. Now you don't have to pay this back, and that's literally $20 in. Let's just say yellows go. They're gonna do this to show you. Yellow go, and they go to the next spot upwards. So it's $20 there. There you get 20 money, and that would carry on going, red or yellow, whoever wants to go next would go there on a future turn. And you don't have to ever pay that money back, but you'll find that in this 2-player game, let's just say reds had gone all out. When it comes to the end of the game, whoever has the fewest agents there is going to get 3 victory points. So red might decide that they're going to place their next agent on the 50 spot, and they're going to take that 50 money to pay off some of the other agents. So maybe that 20 and that 30. Well, in this case, if they did take the 20, you can see it says at the top there's a repayment charge of $10 per agent. So they'd have to pay 30 back to get this agent. They started off with the 50, they paid 30 of that to get another agent back, so net gain was 20. So you can see how they're trying to, as you go further along, they're getting more payout from venture capitalists, but they're also trying to get some agents back. So, let's just say they eventually got this 80 and they managed to pay off a few of them. They're then in competition to get that bonus of 3 victory points. So there's a lot of sway there, and you kind of want your agents back at some point because, you're going to be limited when they start going out into the market. So that's another little twist to the game. Okay, so they both went there, didn't they, for 20. over to reds, and we're going to demonstrate buying a business then. So this is this sort of tool building here which matches the deck. So there's 4 to begin with. Now these businesses, they've all got victory points for end of the game. So 1, you can see the cost of getting it straight away, and some of them give you credits of +1 lumber when you do things. And this one says when selecting an emerging market, which is the top here, or an open market, if all of the actions investments are exclusive in America, so it gives you a little image of all the green, you may make up to 6 investments there. So it breaks the normal game rules where you could do a maximum of 3. This is letting you say you could do 6, so you could really monopolize those areas quite quickly. And yeah, that's a company. You just pop it in front of you. You'd have to leave one of your agents on the top here permanently. So, you know, yes, it gives you VPs, but be mindful those agents are running that company as your CEO, shall we say. Now, there is bonuses as well for having the most different types of companies. You can see all these. This one's got like a blue skyscraper. You've got a little green symbol, an industry one, and some sort of shipping logistics symbol there. So extra VPs, which I'll go through all that at the end. Now, which one are they going to go for? When selecting private contracts, you could take 2 rather than just the 1. And if it's in gold, when you take a production action, take 1 extra lumber if you produce any. I quite like that one actually. Or you may buy and sell 3 lumber each turn for $10 without taking the resource action. So we're going to go for lumber production company, 2 victory points at the end of the game. And this was for, who was it? Was it yellow or red? I can't remember. Yeah, it was red, wasn't it? Because they got their icon there. So we place an agent on it, and basically every time we take a production action, which they haven't done yet, they're going to take 1 extra lumber if they produce any lumber. Let's keep that there in view. Over to yellows for their final action. Now we're going to demonstrate some, let's go and demonstrate the market. So this is the resource market then, and it kind of says on it, market rules, you get to sell up to 5 first at half price. We haven't actually got any resources, but let's just say you did have a wood. You would look at the current price, which you can see there's these stacks of resources on there, and that if you go left you can see the price of 10. So we're only getting $5 for this. Now there is no 5s in the game, it's always rounded down, so it's not actually worth selling this. But if we did have 2, you get $5 each, that's $10, and you've sold 2 of your 5. You put them back in the market, in the supply, and you get $10. You then get to buy up to 5 things at the current price. So anything with a resource on it, that's what started on the game. You can see it's called discount, and it starts with 4 there. And that means you can buy these resources at the discount price of 10. Once, say, all these 4 lumber have been purchased, it then drops down to the base price, which would mean lumber would be $20 per token. So as these discounted ones diminish, you can see gold starts off at 20, and then it's 30, and then the base price would be 40. So maybe you want to get there quickly and get these cheap discounted resources, which gets you more chances of building these contracts, which then gets you more money, and hopefully you can start using that money to invest in some markets. So we've gone there. We haven't got anything to sell, but we've got a bit of money to buy. We're looking at these contracts. Well, these are actually going to go because we've actually used our last turn. So we're just going to go for some generic stuff. We're going to go for 2 wood and a blue collar worker because we produce oil, so we'll leave that one there. So that's going to cost us, what, 3 items at 10.30. So we pay 30 to the bank. And that was yellow's last action. Reds then, what have we not demonstrated? We have got this grant, which is literally take $10 and we get one of these extra agents in our supply. And that's it. We've played out all 5 turns. The steps to end the turn, it says refill the cards to reach the numbers after you've done the markets and moving the investments to the open. So first thing we're going to do is, if we have invested in these markets here, one of these has shifted up actually, hasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was 4 and 4. Oh, it was United Kingdom. I was demonstrating that major market. So if the Reds hadn't invested in there and no one had invested at all in these emerging markets, they would all go out and you just replenish all 4 in a 2-player game. Now I kind of keep the deck here to distinguish between the emerging, and then there's a barrier, and then you got the open markets. But because someone has invested in Central America, one of the emerging markets, you basically shift the ones that have been invested and they come down into the open markets, and you kind of rejig it so it's got this sort of thematic global theme. So we've got Central America there and Europe, and you replenish up to the player count, which is 4. Well, not player count, but the number of the players you got, which we've replenished. So Philippines is out. So this is now able to produce when we go to the production because it's an open market area. We will then replenish these cards. So we'll put these out of the game. And in a 2 free player game, I believe it's free on the government ones and 4 on the private. But that does change when you get to the 4th turn. It says in a turns 4 and 6 you get 5 private contracts, so a bit more competition. We skip that up to 2 turns. We swap the first player marker. You get all your 5 markers back, so we can kick off again. Let me just check I've done everything. Oh, we've got the companies as well, so they're going to get replenished. What's it say? Discard remaining. Private companies, discard. Government contracts, yep. So we're going to get 4 more companies out. Now these companies can be really powerful. You can have quite a few of these to give you extra VPs and just some really nice sort of engine builders and manipulators through the game. I won't go through what they all are, but we are back to reds this time. Now in the standard game, which again is on the other side, there's a bit of sway as to first player. I think it's on the market research option. You can vie for control of it. So if you go to action, you could go first or last. So it fluctuates a little bit more than just the base game where you swap it clockwise. Now these guys are going to go and demonstrate market research, which is literally taking 2 tokens over to there, which again is probably not what I would have done, but I've demonstrated all the actions now for you. That's all of them. So let's go through some actual strategy at play. So yellows are up. They're probably thinking, okay, yellows have got a lot of control over Africa and Middle East. Maybe if they sneak 2 on there, they can get those 1 VPs. But then there's this France market, which is worth 4 VPs if they get control there. And they can see that actually Australia, what should I say, Asia has got some more potential emerging markets coming out, and they're quite cheap. Let's do that. We're going to go for an emerging market. Oh, but we've only got $20, so maybe we want more money first, so we're not going to do that. We're going to go venture capitalist, I think. So we go to there, we put one of our agents on the next spot there. We're going to get 30. Now, I should have probably looked at the companies first, because some of those companies have nice manipulators on the venture capitalist, which let's see if we can see one. No, when you take production, no, there's none there at the moment. Reds are $30, and they're probably thinking, let's go and secure one of these markets. But equally, if they get more money, they can put more presence out there, more agents, or can they do a contract? We've already, well, we need to fulfill this one really, and if we get lumber, we get more lumber due to this lumber production company. Interesting. They are, well, they need a white collar worker, and they need someone to produce oil, because then they can start producing the stuff required for this card. And well, they could do more money. You know what, they're going to go for venture capitalist as well. It's just a great way to get money. They're going to get $40 over to yellows, who now have money, and they're going to go to the emerging market. So for their primary placement, they're going to go Philippines, so that's going to be 10, and then another 20 for that technology. That's 30 to pay, and they get their secondary market. So they could go for the same spot, but I'm thinking, since reds have got some control in Central America, which I should actually add a red token there as you go through the game, because they got a minimum of 2. Yellows are going to go for a bit of Mexico, and they need oil, I think. Actually, they've got loads of oil. That's really cheap in Mexico for gold. We're going to go for a gold token. So that's going to cost them 20. Now, we don't add on that production just yet, because it's in the emerging markets. We have to wait till the next turn, once those investments we've made there come up to the open markets. And over to, who was that? That was yellows, wasn't it? Reds are up. They've got a lot of money now, and I think they're going to go for the open markets. So they're going to go and take 3 agents. We've kind of got Central America in the bank. We've got 20, 40, 50, 70 bucks to play with. We kind of needed the oil, so we're going to go 20, 40. So we've got an oil and a lumber, and we're going to go for this white collar worker as well. Oh, actually, we're going to go down here for this oil. Yes, that'll make a lot more sense. So 20, 40, 60 to pay. So we pay that to the supply. Over to yellows, who, what can we do? So they've got no money, they've got some resource. They're thinking, oh, I'll go and have a contract quickly, which they could complete this one. I never spotted that. So they're off to complete a private contract. They've got an agent free to pop on it. They need 2 lumber and a blue collar worker, which they can provide. And they get their agent back. They get 20, so minimal payout. It's worth a VP at the end. So they're already starting to collect some of them. Over to... oh, I should have actually added the produce when I put these because it's in the open market. So where were we? And the way you can easily do that is look at your counters and look at your numbers. So 2 yellow and there's 2 produce. Red's got 5 agents out there, but only 2 produce, so we missed a couple. So we've got a blue collar work, we've got that one. We've got a lumber, we've got 2 oils, so we take this black token to represent the 2 oil, and we've got 1 white collar worker we're producing. So you can see the numbers 5 match the 5 agents. Now we're going to go and produce, which is this factory symbol, and we can see what we produce. We're going to get 2 oil, we're going to get 1 lumber, 1 white collar worker and 1 blue collar worker, and we should have enough resource now to complete this trolley. So we're going to need the blue collar worker, the white collar worker, and the free oil. We get our agent back and we get a payout of 30 bucks. And we've completed that one. We turn over, and that's a government contract, so every time we take another government contract we're going to get 10 bucks in advance. Over to yellows. They are thinking, right, we've got minimum money, we've got 20, we have no resources. Do we want to go and maybe buy something? We could buy another company. Let's go and do that. Those companies are worth it. So we'll put it there, and for 20 bucks we could get an extra 10 when we complete a gold contract. Aren't really producing much gold. When selecting government contracts you can take 2. That'd be really handy for these guys to purchase. When you take a production action, when you select them, not a big fan of any, but we'll go for the most VPs with the minimal cost. So they're going to have to put an agent on that. Where can we put this? Just at the bottom, probably our camera view. And that's going to be worth 2 VPs at the end of the game. Reds are at final turn, and we did have something we wanted to do. We probably would go for that contract to get the 2 government contracts per turn rather than the 1, because that's going to be great if we get loads of resources like we've got. We've got a fair bit of money. Looking at what we can do left, probably thinking, can we get a contract? We've got 2 wood and a lumber. We haven't actually produced. Oh, we did produce, didn't we? Maybe we'll go in emerging markets. We've got a bit of money, and we're thinking, okay, yellows are going to have a lot of sway in Asia. Maybe we'll go for somewhere in the United Kingdom because there's more VPs. So if we go 20, 40, is that the resource we want? More wood. Maybe we need laptops in gold because you can see we're not producing either of them yet. And where's the cheapest technology and gold then? So there's the gold here, but do I really want that gold over kind of wasting my agent there, because it's not going to get any victory points to be in sort of second place in the majority there. I think we'll pass on that one. This laptop's 30. We've got enough, well, we've only got 40 to play with, so I think we're just going to stick in here for the 20 and the 20. That's 40, and we'll ignore the secondary market action. So we pay, what was that, 40 to the bank. And yellows have got 1 more turn, so they haven't. I think they're just going to stock up on some money for next time around, and we're just going to go and get an agent on the take a government grant option, and we're going to get 10 bucks. And as I say, it explains all the options really well on your player mat as well. I'm going to call it there. So in terms of ending the round, we'd go to turn 3, shall we say. You'd replenish these, You would then bring any that you've invested in the emerging markets up here. So you kind of create this little world map as such. And then you'd replenish these up to the amount. You'd replenish and discard the companies, and you take your agent, your control markers, your turns back, and then you're ready to go for phase 3. So not phase, but turn. So in turn 4, it says replace the A decks. So all these initial setup cards are the A, and you bring in the Bs just on the side there, and then you'd up it for 5 private contracts, it says as well. Now, once you've played out the 6th turn, how are you going to score all your points then? So it says clearly on here, actually on your player map. So you're going to get points for your markets. So total of victory points for control. So this is control on the top left hand spot. So let's just say this is how it ended, which it wouldn't be. There'd be so many more markets out there. The Reds are going to get 1 victory point there. Reds should also have a token on that one. Yellow should have one on that one. Red should have one there. And this one would be red. Actually, no, you need a minimum of 2 to take charge of it. So you'd add on the points for the control. You'd add on points for secondary control, which there is none in this case. But let's just assume in France that there was 3 reds and 2 yellows. Red would get the 4 VP and yellow would get the 2 VP. Now, it says presence as well in a free play game. If blue had 1 agent there, they'd get the 1 VP as well. And that's literally add up all those points. You then get your private contracts. So if you have 2 here, you add on the VPs at the bottom. These guys have got a government one, so they're going to add on 3 VPs. You would then add your companies. So all your companies have got VPs on as well. You'd get 1 VP for each $50 you've got left. And then you do your bonuses. So each region controlled with the most markets controlled in that region. So for example here, a region is the green ones here. So it's the America. And then you've got Europe, you've got Africa, Middle East and Asia. So at the moment, red controls the most markets in that region. So they get a bonus 3 points for that. 3 points there and then another 3 for red. So yeah, reds have done really well here, but it's not even close to being the end of the game. And you would then score for control the region with the most markets. So you can see that this region has 2 markets in it. Let's just say it had 4 markets and these had 3 and 2 and 2. Then this region has the most markets, so they'd get an extra 3 VPs for whoever controlled the region with the most markets. You then do the most private contracts, like I said earlier. So whoever has the most of these, so if these are 2 and those have 0, these guys are going to get a bonus 3 victory points as well. And it says 1 victory point if tied. You then do exactly the same for the government contracts, but remember, if you have not completed one of those, you're not entitled to get these bonuses. It then says the most different type of companies. So again, you can see these little symbols on the side. So if you had these 3 here, that's 3 different symbols, and if your opponent only had 2, you're going to get the 3 VPs. And then the fewest venture capitalists, so looking at the moment, it's a tie, so it'll be 1 VP each, but let's just say red had 0 there and yellow had 2. Red is going to get the 3 victory points. And that is it. Add up all your victory points and you are the winner of Global Mogul. There is a fair bit going on, but it's really crunchy once you sort of get to this, trying to figure out which emerging markets do you want to invest in, which open markets, because you're trying to get control. And you might have control in a couple of them, and then all of a sudden, other markets come out and there's more green ones, and you're like, oh no, I kind of need to get into Venezuela here to maintain my control, and your opponent gets a little chance. You also want to get these contracts, because not only do you get those bonus points for having done the most, but they give you some nice payouts. So looking at some of the Bs, where are we? You can see $60, $100 payout for doing robotics, nuclear power plants for 120. But you can see all the resources you're gonna require to get those. Or you're gonna go to the resource market and get those discounted ones, or really get to the venture capital and earn that money, which you don't even have to pay back unless you really want your agents back. And you can see who's going to go there first, and then your opponent might go there quite often, but then you're jumping on the bandwagon and getting the $60, and then finally the $80. And I should add that several players can go on the $80 as many times as you want there. So a lot of really nice things going on here. And there we are, folks. Enjoy.